Hi guys, before I get to the video, I want to do a little shameless plug for my 3 books that I've written. So I've written 3 books about the PS Vita. They chart the full history of the Vita and they include interviews with developers and retrospectives on the big games. These are all available to buy on my website, as is my one-off Vita magazine, which charts my top 100 Vita games, plus the community's vote for top 100 games. So if you want to check that out, the link is in the description, and now onto the video. So the PS5 is out in just 5 weeks, really soon. And we've now got a pretty good idea of what the launch lineup is. I mean, really, the most compelling game for me is Demon's Souls, but I'll definitely be getting Miles Morales Spider-Man as well. Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs, they also look really cool. But it's got me kind of thinking back to the Vita's launch lineup, and at the time everyone was saying how good it was, and I thought just go back and think about, is it really that good? And the answer is yes. It was a really good launch lineup. There was, about 25 games, and it was just a really solid kind of variety in terms of all the different games available. You had your racing games like Wipeout 2048. You had third-person action games like Uncharted or Dynasty Warriors. You have platformers like Rayman Origins, you've got fighting games like BlazBlue and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, you've got these kind of smaller indie experiences like Escape Plan and Mutant Blobs. There was just, and sports games as well. You had FIFA as well for sports fans. There was just a really good selection of games available. And, when you look at kind of console launches after that, PS4 was good, but a lot of those games were on the PS3 as well. Even for the Switch, Breath of the Wild was obviously amazing. But aside from that, a lot of the games were available on other systems and even mobile. Some of the games were available. But, I think the Vita had just a really solid launch lineup of kind of exclusive games for that system. Uncharted is just awesome. It was such a good game. I feel like it was really under-reviewed at the time of launch. It got a Metacritic of around 80-something, which I think is really low. It's such a brilliant game, and just especially for the system as well. I think it was just great. Wipeout 2048, again, brilliant game. The graphics on this game, the sound, the sense of speed, were just awesome. I think the load times were a problem, of course, for it, but other than that, it was really good. I think one of the highest rated launch games was Luminess, which was a really fun game. Not something that's kind of really up my alley, but it was still good. I loved Everybody's Golf. I love Virtua Tennis 4 as well. I think these games just kind of don't get enough attention. They're just so much fun. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, again, another brilliant game. So much fun, as was Rayman Origins. There was so many games there that were just awesome. Digital games as well. So Escape Plan, that was, very stylish. Controls were a little bit fiddly, but, really kind of unique, especially in terms of graphics and what it was. Then Motorstorm RC, which I still say is one of the best games on the Vita. Really underappreciated in my opinion. It's such a fun game. Really can't recommend that game enough. Everyone should go play that. And really cheap as well, super cheap. But then you also had Mutant Blobs. What's the Tales from Space, Mutant Blobs Attack. Really fun game, little 2D platformer, really funny as well, great cartoony graphics. It's an awesome game and just kind of overlooked. I didn't actually pick it up till a few weeks later when I realized that, I didn't have much kind of new stuff coming out on the Vita, so I picked that up and realized how really good it is. Then you also had Super Stardust Delta. Super Stardust Delta? Yep, Super Stardust Delta. Just checking my notes here. And that was also a really good game, really fun. Not obviously like a kind of a massive system seller or that kind of killer app that people talked about a lot, the Vita not having back at launch. But, a really solid game. There was also Hustle Kings, that the pool game on the Vita, which I'll do a video on it sometime because it's actually a really fun game. Really easy to get into. When I got the Vita at launch, I got about 5 games with it. I think it was Wipeout, Uncharted, Motorstorm RC, Escape Plan, and Super Stardust. Those are the 5 games I got. And then it was over the next few weeks I started picking up more games. Oh, and Plants vs. Zombies, I got that at launch as well. So I got quite a few games for it at launch, like 6 games just, having it on day one. So there was so much for me to do and so much to play for a while. But, you know, the Vita got criticized for not having any games after that. People, you know, it had that reputation that the Vita has no games because there was no kind of new games coming out for like 3 or 4 weeks after that. And even for the kind of, I think for the first 2 months, there was very few games, maybe just 2 titles, Unit 13 and 1 other game for the first 2 months, which is not great. I think the launch lineup was so good and so varied and so big, you know, 25 games. I think they should have probably made it about 12 and then launch 1 game a week every week after that, rather than having so much available on day one. I mean, it probably helped in some ways. Some of these games, Reality Fighters, Michael Jackson, they weren't going to do that well anyway. Even Mod Nation Racers, it didn't review well at all. It wasn't that great a game in my opinion. So I can kind of understand why those games, it would kind of go into the launch lineup and be just kind of other things to distract people, and people tend to buy more games at launch, just like me. But I think there were just almost too many games at launch. If they had just had Uncharted as sort of the main Sony release on launch day, and maybe like Escape Plan, just to kind of show off some of the features of the Vita, like the touchscreen and stuff, I think those 2 alone probably would have been sufficient as kind of launch games. And then you could have had Wipeout 2048 the week after, Motorstorm RC a couple of weeks after that. I think there was so much available on day one that it kind of distracted and didn't really let games shine. So Tales from Space really did get kind of buried in that whole pile of games, which is a shame because it's such a good game, and it only got kind of, I think, really discovered later how good it was. So I think the Vita had a brilliant launch lineup. You know, even when you look at the PS5 launch lineup, I think it's good. You know, it'll definitely kind of keep me busy in terms of the couple of games that I'm getting. But the Vita had just this really great varied launch lineup. You know, better I think than any of the other PlayStation systems, where you were looking at kind of ports from previous gen, or just kind of a couple of like sort of solid games. The Vita had quite a lot of really great games to play. And I know I'm biased. I'm a Vita fan, so you know I am biased. I know that, but you know I think the Vita's launch library was brilliant. I think they could have. I wish they had sort of almost not had it so good and just, you know, slowly rolled out those games rather than putting all of it onto day one and then sort of having nothing for, or very little for the next 8 weeks. It really hurt the Vita's reputation when they did it like that. You know, if they had launched 1 game a week after that, everyone would have been quite happy in saying that, oh, okay, I can look forward to, you know, Dynasty Warriors this week, or I can look forward to Everybody's Golf next week. It's just, you know, having that kind of slow, steady rollout would have helped the Vita, I think. But, you know, as it stands, the Vita launch lineup was just brilliant. And so I can't really, can't fault it in terms of that. It does kind of hold up really well comparing to other systems. And I think it really did set that sort of, the lesson for other systems. So Switch, PS4, when they had their launch lineups, they still had quite a lot of games, but they had a game every other week, or lots of games every other week. So it really it meant people had something to play, and I think that was really where this launch lineup kind of hurt the Vita in the long run, where there was just too much there. But guys, so, you know, given PS5 is coming up, given the launch lineup there, you know, when you think about all the PlayStation launch lineups, what did you think of the Vita's launch lineup? Do you agree with me that you still think it holds up, that it's a really great selection of games? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.